My name is Jamie from Not So Wimpy Teacher, and I'm really excited to make this video for you all about how I do math centers and guided math groups in my classroom. I have done several Facebook Lives about math centers, and it is a topic that I found teachers are really looking for some advice and some answers. So I'm going to share with you a whole lot of ideas for making math centers extremely meaningful for your students and very low prep, easy to plan for you. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. All right, for me, math always starts whole group. I have a daily whole group lesson. This is how my math block starts. Guys, I would use your math curriculum. I get a lot of people saying, are you going to write a curriculum? I'm probably not. Use what you already have, and a lot of schools require you to anyway. So I think use what you have, knowing that you are going to be able to deepen their understanding later through centers. If you do not have math curriculum, I used Engage New York, which is just like Eureka, and Engage New York is free online. So do a little Google search. It is free online. I think it's a great curriculum. There's a ton of stuff in there, more than you need, but at least you know you'll have everything you need. So I would use my math curriculum. I do a daily lesson. I just go right straight through my curriculum. Okay? Here's the thing though. You gotta be quick. You can't be spending an hour on your whole group lesson. Here's what you need to think about. You cannot teach at the pace of your lowest learner. I think it's kind of a habit that we have because we see a confused face and so we explain it again and we do another example. But if it's just your lowest learners looking at you a little not sure, but the on-level learners seem to be catching on, they don't have to be proficient yet, but they seem to be catching on, then you have to move on. Your lowest learners will see that you are going to help them later. They don't have to be stressed out about it because you are going to be meeting with them later and you will be able to teach it at their pace when you meet with them. So you need to cruise right through this lesson. Teach the new skill quickly, showing a couple of examples. I don't give students manipulatives during my whole group, as long as I can. I mean, there are just some times where it just needs to happen, but 99% of the time, my students are not given manipulatives during whole group. It takes a whole bunch of time to pass them out and explain how to use them, and there's always a few kids who are not using them properly, and then there's always a few manipulatives on the floor at the end of the day. This is a time waster, but don't get me wrong. I think manipulatives are amazing, and I think every math teacher should be using them. I just choose to use them during small group because I think it takes less time, and I'm right there to watch and guide them so I can make sure that they really are understanding the skill and using the manipulative to help them. Sometimes I use a manipulative to model the problem on the board, so if you have magnetic base 10 blocks or magnetic fraction manipulatives, those are handy. But keep this whole group lesson more mini. I have 30 minutes to do my whole group lesson, so I divided out 20 minutes of teaching the new skill and 10 minutes where we do the problem set or the practice sheet that comes with the curriculum. I only give them the 10 minutes. If we don't finish it, we don't finish it. It's okay. And in fact, most curriculums, the problem sheet, it starts off with easier problems and gradually gets more complex. So if my learners are still struggling a little bit up at the top, that's going to make them take longer, which means they're probably not ready for the more complex problems. Think about using those problems in your small group. It's okay if they don't finish every single number on the problem set. What's important is that they get through a couple successfully. And if they don't get through a couple successfully, that's okay too, because that tells you exactly where you need to start in your small group. Okay? So this is my whole group. I basically took how I used to teach math before centers. I still do all that, just condensed it. And if you talk a lot, like I do, practice a couple of these lessons at home with your stuffed animal so that you can catch yourself when you start repeating yourself. Okay? Teach your students certain procedures that you always use. So if you're always doing a turn and talk, teach them a procedure so that there's a quick clap and then they do it. So you're not over and over having to say, turn to your partner. I want partner A to say this, and I want partner B to do this. That takes up a lot of time. So really practice it and see where you're spending time that maybe is unnecessary. Okay? And don't feel guilty about going fast, even if it's not the pace your lowest learners need. You are going to come in and you are going to reach out right where they're at, which is so much more important than a really long whole group lesson that can lead to behavior problems. All right, let's talk about the centers that I use in my classroom and why I chose to use these particular centers. First of all, some of you may notice that in my list of centers, there's no acronym. I know a lot of people like to use the math acronym, or there's a few others. You know what? I tried because I love the look of it. It's cool. But I found I was trying to create centers to match an acronym instead of just using the centers I knew my students needed. So I don't have an acronym. And the reality is, calling it exactly what it is less confusing to my students too. All right, I want to talk about the very important center, the most important. It's Meet the Teacher. This is where your leveled small groups come back and meet with you. So you will need to level these groups. I level them. I start off by leveling them with early practice sheets we're doing in class, maybe their first math assessment. It helps you to decide, but you can constantly change them. There's really no reason that you couldn't move kids around whenever you need to. Because the reality is, a kid who does really well in multiplication still might struggle in geometry. So you may need to move them around a little as you move through the units or just as they grow as a mathematician throughout the year. What I do to keep my groups labeled is I put laminated posters up on a cabinet, and they have the group names on it, and underneath it tells exactly which centers they do each day, and then I just laminate that and use Expo marker to write their names. And in fact, I have those for free on my blog, and it's part of my Math Center blog series. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video to that series for you so you can grab that freebie. All right, now what do we do during Meet the Teacher? I've got this leveled group. What are we going to do? Guys, keep this super simple. I see a lot of teachers who get all these different resources and they're photocopying and they're cutting and they're laminating and all these things. And I was one of those teachers at one point, and it was maddening. Trying to come up with different activities every single week. Too much prep time. And my students actually don't need that. The number one thing I do during Meet the Teacher is my students have individual whiteboards, and I give them problems from either the problem set that we just completed that day or the day before. It's okay to go back, especially if your students need it. And because I don't meet with my groups every day, I'm sometimes doing yesterday's first, and then when they master that in small group, we move on to today's skill. Grab some problems from that problem sheet. You can also grab some problems from their homework sheet. They're not going to actually know, and your goal is to make sure they understand the skill. So if you've already gone through one of the homework problems, you can always let them cross it off, and you will be their very best friend. So I take those problems, and I can give the kids manipulatives. So we might start with manipulatives. We solve the problem with a manipulative. Depends on the skill. I mean, subtraction, regrouping, we use manipulatives for a while. Then when they are doing well with the manipulatives, we can move on to whiteboard. We can draw a picture if we need to. We can eventually get to where it's just numbers if the group is ready for that. It might be my higher groups who move past manipulatives faster, whereas my lower groups may always need manipulatives or pictures, and that's fine. So whiteboards with problems that came straight from your curriculum, it's awesome. If you don't have curriculum that you can use this for, you can use task cards, but I wouldn't even photocopy the recording sheet for your students. Let them just do it on a whiteboard. That way, it's less prep for you. And you can decide, like if you do the first problem, they get it really fast, it's not even a challenge, skip quite a ways down to something that's a little more complex. I observe my students and base the number of problems we're going to do together and the complexity of the problems on how they are doing. Okay, so it is very differentiated because I watch them, they struggled. We work together. We do another one, we work together. They're starting to get it. Now they start working just as their group. I watch them and I change directions when they need me to. This is why it's okay to go faster in your whole group. You're right there. You can really help them. They're in groups of hopefully maybe no more than 6 or 7 if you can manage it. That would be ideal. Okay, another thing I do like to do during Meet the Teacher, not every day, but I do like to use interactive notebooks during my Meet the Teacher time. This is a resource that I've created. I have interactive notebook activities for every single skill that a 3rd grade teacher would be using. I like to use these as an assessment. So we have covered this skill whole group. They've had practice sheets and homework sheets. We've covered it in small group with manipulatives and whiteboards. Now I can give them this activity. It's a quick cut. You'll notice I don't do interactive notebooks that have crazy cuts and stuff that's not meaningful to the math. They now can do this, and I'm sitting there at the table. It's small group time. And as they do it, I just kind of keep an eye. And I'll ask them, can you flip that flap for me? They'll flip it up. I can quick see, is the answer right? And it's just a quick check. This group has this skill. We've got it. We can move on. Or it's more like, ooh, we're not doing so good. Let's just close the notebook and get those manipulatives back out. Okay? That's my Meet the Teacher, and it's super, super important time that I'm spending with my students. All right. Another one of my centers is technology. I really hope that you are blessed with enough technology for a small group. I was blessed with some Chromebooks, only enough for a small group. I was not one-to-one. My school did require us to use a program called iReady. It is a paid program. I think the math portion of it is really beneficial. Other programs that you could use are like MobyMax. It's really great. I've heard of a lot of people who use things like Prodigy. So do a little research on a app or a computer program where your students are practicing skills that are grade level appropriate. If you have apps, Splash Math, if you have iPad, Splash Math is a good app where they're practicing skills. And what I like about a technology center is being able to get a report as the teacher. So this holds my students accountable during the center because I can see what lessons they've accomplished and oftentimes like what their score was or whether they passed it. And so this holds them accountable and it lets me know where they're at. It's especially handy if your program changes based on whether they're getting it wrong or not. Some schools pay for IXL. There are free programs out there. Like I said, I used MobyMax sometimes, and my kiddos liked that quite a bit too. So technology, I do have my kids sit at their desk with the Chromebook and complete this. My kids like the center. It's screen time, and so they like that. But it's also really valuable because they're working on the skills that we need to work on in class. If you use Eureka or Engage New York during your technology center, you can have your kiddos use Zearn, Z-E-A-R-N. It goes right along with the curriculum. And even if you don't use the curriculum, it might be something you should check out. All right. Third center that my students will do, I call it independent. Some people call it hands-on. This is the center where my students will be writing and turning in a piece to me. So these centers are centers that I've actually made. I have bundles for 3rd and 4th grade, and I'm currently working on 2nd and 5th grade with Debbie Watson from the 3rd grade pad and Amanda Welp from the primary gal. So we have a few of the 2nd grade sets up and a few of the 5th grade sets up, and we will continue to put those up so you can use them this year. But here's what it kind of looks like. This is the box I would keep on my shelf or in my cabinet with the centers when they're not being used. But here's what's inside of them. There are 10 different centers. They are engaging, hands-on. They include things like task cards, spinners, rolling the dice, color coding things, matching, lots of matching and sorting. So they're interesting to my kids. They like them. They really don't complain about doing these, so it's much better than just like worksheets. It has a recording book for all 10 of the centers. Based on the type of center schedule I use, which I'm going to talk about shortly, this booklet and all 10 centers take my students approximately a month, 3 to 4 weeks. So I have a piece to hold them accountable and to grade, because I do need scores in my grade book, but I'm not grading every single week, and I am not photocopying new recording sheets every single week. Also, the centers look similar for every unit. This is the fraction one. The multiplication one's going to look similar to the division. They all look similar, so I spend time at the beginning of the year teaching my students how to complete these centers, and there's actually a blog post about that in my Math Center blog post series. And I don't have to spend a lot of time throughout the year. It's not like every Monday I have to tell them what they're going to do in their independent center. No, they know. They know that they are going to do these centers. And the consistency means that they actually get better and better at completing these accurately. And it saves class time. All right, so there are 10 centers. These are all like put together right now, but I separate out the 10 different centers, and this is actually what it looks like in my classroom. I just have this little tub, this little crate. It was 99 cents from Walmart. It's miniature. It's hard to tell in the video, but it is miniature. And I use either these pencil pouches or these little plastic envelope pouches to store each center. So there's 10 of them, and you can see I label them with the center number. I let students do them in any order that they wish, and then they can just put the answers in their recording book. They can take these and put them on the floor, put them on their desk, wherever they like to do them. Since only a small group of students are using them at one time, so only maybe 6 kids using them at one time, and there's 10 centers, I'll have to make multiple copies of the centers. There's always one there that they haven't completed that they can go grab and do. Some of the centers take more time than others, and that's okay. Because when they finish their center, they go put it back and grab another one as long as they still have time. As long as I haven't said it's time to switch rotations, they can keep grabbing another center and completing them. Now, my higher learners are going to finish those independent centers earlier than my lower learners. They're going to complete all 10 a little bit quicker, right? So I do have a fast finisher activity. I keep this fast finisher activity out for quite a while. They are units, so like I have one for rounding, one for elapsed time, one for fractions, etc. It is a math menu. When students have completed all 10 of their centers, they can go grab the math menu set. So the math menu set has side dishes, entrees, and desserts. And my students know that they must start with side dishes, then they must do an entree, and then they can do the dessert. So, and I even wrote on them for them so they would know first. There's no excuses. They choose one of these activities to complete. They're like warm-up activities. So this is my addition and subtraction, I believe it's addition and subtraction, math menu. And so one of the questions says, list the steps you can take to check to make sure the answer to an addition problem is accurate. These are higher order thinking. My thought is that the fast finishers from independent math centers are probably going to be my higher learners most of the time. And so these are higher order thinking questions that are going to ask them to dig a bit deeper on the topics we're learning about. Show 2 different strategies you can use when adding 2-digit numbers. Which strategy is your favorite and why? Okay. So they must do a side dish, then they can choose an entree. These are more like word problems. They have to show a picture and explain their thinking. They often allow them to be a little creative though. You are planning a party and have $100 to spend. Choose items from the list to buy. How many of each item will you buy? How much will you spend in total? And it gives them prices for ice cream, pizza, cupcakes, juice boxes, balloons, and so they can plan their party out with the $100 they have, and they're going to have to tell me how much they spent on each item, how much they spent all together. You can have them list how much they have left. They love it. It's fun, but they're practicing addition, so that's what was important to me. The desserts are super creative, and so they can only do these once they've done a side dish and entree, and some kids are never going to get here, and that's okay. This is extra. This is above and beyond. This is fun. I don't grade these. I don't have time, but you can if you'd like to. Make a poster that would help students with addition strategies. Be sure to include vocabulary and regrouping. Create a game that will help students practice their addition facts. Be sure to include the directions and rules. So these are really fun, make something kind of activities, but they don't require a lot of supplies, okay? So I pick a math menu and I stick it in this little pencil pouch, and students know that when they complete their 10 centers, they can use the math menu. One thing I do want to say about the Independent Center is that I use it as a spiral review, which means that I'm only putting out the fraction unit after we've completed fractions whole group. My whole group lesson maybe is on geometry, and maybe even in Meet the Teacher, we're working on geometry. But my independent section is going to be the unit we've just finished. This allows them to continue to practice a skill that is still relatively new to us, but it also helps them to be more successful with the skill because they've already been taught the skill. So something to think about. They'll have a lot less questions and get higher scores in their independent centers if it's something they've already been exposed to, had small group instruction, used manipulatives, been assessed, maybe even retaught in those cases where a student really struggled. So my last center rotation is math facts. We might skip count during our whole group lesson, but we don't have a ton of time for math facts because we're trying to condense our lesson. I also like math facts to be differentiated. Some of my students need to move faster through their math facts than others, and so this center is a great way to do that. I purchased Kindle Fires for my kiddos, and if you have computers or iPads, you might be able to do this. The first thing my students would do is they will go to Extra Math. It is a website. It is differentiated. So they take a pre-assessment and then it shows them exactly which facts they already knew and which facts they didn't know. And then it gives them practice and will continuously assess them on those facts and can move them onto more challenging facts when they're ready. It also sends me a report. You can even give the student ID to parents. They can check in. They can get reports. Students can do it at home. It only takes 5 minutes. So it's not a whole center rotation for me. And if you can't do it, it's okay. You can't do it. But I found the website and I found a way to make it work because I liked the website. If you only have enough technology to use in the technology center, you might have students start by doing Extra Math and then log into something like Zearn or MobyMax. But I did get Kindle Fires. They're pretty inexpensive on Amazon and they only have enough for a small group. After they complete their Extra Math, because they said it only takes about 5 minutes, they play math fact games together. There's a couple of ways you can go about this. There are lots of math fact games out there, online, on TPT, on Pinterest. I just need it super simple. For me and for my students, my favorite types of games to use in the center are like super kid-friendly games. Games they already know how to play. I'm talking Candyland, Chutes and Ladders, Connect Four, Jenga. What I do with these games is I give them a stack of flashcards. If we're working on multiplication, they get a multiplication set of flashcards. You can actually give different sets of flashcards to different groups if you'd like. So what they do, they set up the game like the rules say. They flip a flashcard. If they give the accurate answer, their partner can have a multiplication chart right there to check. If they give the accurate answer, then they take their normal turn on the game board. So if it was Candyland, they would then flip the Candyland card and move their piece. So they're really playing Candyland, but the only way they can take a turn is by getting the math fact correct. It's fun and no prep. You can get flashcards at the dollar store. So I'm not I don't have to spend a lot of time teaching them the rules because the kids know how to play these games for the most part. It makes for a really easy center, and students really enjoy it, and they're practicing math facts. All right, so these are the 4 different rotations that my groups do. Let's talk a bit about schedules and how to make this work. I believe strongly in doing only 2 rotations per day. When I first started teaching, I tried to do 4 groups, 4 rotations, and it was kind of a mess. What would happen is my rotations, maybe they were scheduled to be 15 minutes long, but by the time you transition and get out materials and then you're putting materials away, you're losing quite a bit of time. Maybe if you're lucky, you actually only have 12 minutes with the kids. So you get out those manipulatives and you do one problem and it's just about time to switch again. It didn't seem like we were really digging in deep. It didn't seem like after one problem I could then give them another one based on the needs I saw right there. And so I got to thinking that 2 groups would give me longer time with the student and allow me to dig deep. I'm still doing a whole group lesson every single day, but I'm only meeting with my students every other day, but it's for longer. So we actually get deeper and lose less time with transitions. When I meet with them, we can still review skills from the day before because I didn't meet with them that day. So we can start by reviewing those skills and then add on today's skills, and it's okay. I find that I actually meet their needs so much better with that longer period of time. And I promise you that with training, students that are maybe 2nd grade and above can handle 30 minutes in our rotations if that's how long you have. I was really blessed to have a 90-minute math block, and honestly, I challenge you to really look at your schedule if you're allowed to. I know in some schools you are not allowed to, but look at your schedule. Where are you spending your minutes? In my opinion, just my opinion, math, reading, writing are the most important places I need to spend my minutes, followed by science, social studies. And so I look at my day and I eliminate things that don't help my students move forward in those areas. And it means that I don't have time for a class meeting every day. It means that my transitions have to be super quick, so I spend lots of time on that at the beginning of the year. I have brain breaks periodically, but I can't have 10 a day. Okay? I had to get creative. I decided to teach science and social studies on Fridays. It gave me a huge chunk of time for science and social studies because I chose not to teach a new math lesson or a new reading lesson, not to have centers that day. So I do all of my center rotations Monday through Thursday. It gives me a bigger chunk of time. And then on Friday, I do assessments for any subject I might have one. Spelling, vocabulary, maybe I have a math test, maybe there's a reading test, depending on where we are in a unit. And then I spend the rest of my time on science and social studies. This means you can do like more elaborate projects and experiments and things. And I like that. My students do too. It's a fun way to send them home for the weekend. But it also gave me more time in my schedule for my math small groups, my reading small groups, and my writer's workshop. So I challenge you to really look at your schedule creatively and see, are you giving them too much time for morning work? Morning work should be like a 20-minute event, okay? Try to see what you can do. But if you have a 90-minute block, it's awesome. I spend whole group. I do 30 minutes, so about 20 minutes on the lesson, about 10 minutes on the practice sheet. And then for centers, I have 2 30-minute rotations. It's awesome. So if you can manage it, this is the dream. If you have no say whatsoever and can only do a 60-minute math block, this is my recommendation. This is like the best case scenario. Do a 15-minute lesson with 5 minutes in the practice sheet, giving you a 20-minute whole group, and then do 2 20-minute rotations. So 20-minute whole group and then 2 20-minute rotations. You are going to have to do your mini lesson quicker, but remember, you still have your meet the teacher to dig in deeper. You're really introducing the skill whole group and practicing it in small group. So this is an option Just because you only have 60 minutes does not mean you cannot do math centers. I have heard teachers say they only have a 45-minute math block, and I'm like, that's crazy talk. Where can you steal some time? Try and steal it from somewhere. All right, so let's talk about if you have 4 groups. And I really don't recommend having more than 4 groups. I have some people who say, well, I have 8 different levels of students, and you might. You're just going to have to put them in like groups, which means there may be a couple of students a little higher than another couple in the group. It's okay as long as they're similar, okay? I recommend 4 groups, especially for larger classes. I think more than that means you're going to meet with them less. You're going to have a shorter amount of time to meet with them. Here's the schedule that I used. I had to have 4 groups because I had a bigger class, and this is the schedule I used. So, my group 1, I named it something more creative, but group 1 on Monday would meet with me first, and then they would have their technology center. So they're meeting with me, they're doing skill work with me, and then they go and do technology. They will do this exact same rotation on Wednesday. Meet with me, and then technology. But on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're going to start with their independent center work and then do math facts. Group 2 does just the flip. Instead of starting with Meet the Teacher, they start with technology. Then they do Meet the Teacher. That's their Monday, Wednesday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, they do math facts and then independent. Groups 3 and 4. So on Monday, Group 3 does independent and math facts, and Group 4 does math facts and independent. And for their Tuesday, Thursday schedule, they have Meet the Teacher. Group 3 meets with me first, and then technology, and Group 4 starts with technology and then meets with me. So they have 2 different schedules. Students will have a Monday, Wednesday schedule, and they'll have a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. They figure this out really quickly. And even when I switch them from different groups, they figure it out. But I do post it. Like I said, I have posters. It says the group name. Down at the bottom, it would say something like, Monday and Wednesday, Meet the Teacher, then technology. Tuesday and Thursday, independent, then math facts. I laminate it, use dry erase to write their names. If they are ever not sure where to go, they can easily look at the poster. This is what I would do if I had a larger group of students, maybe more than 18. I would probably do it this way. So there's 4 groups, 4 different rotations, but you only do 2 rotations each day. This was always my dream calendar. If you have a smaller class, like 18 or less, this is awesome. Split your kids into 3 groups. Let me show you why. Group 1 and Group 2 are the same as it was with 4 groups. Group 1 starts with Meet the Teacher and then technology for Monday, Wednesday, and they do independent and math facts for Tuesday, Thursday. Group 3 is the same as it was with the 4-group schedule too. They start with independent and then they do math facts. Tuesday, Thursday, they do Meet the Teacher and then they do technology. But since you only have 3 groups, look at your Tuesday, Thursday schedule. You're going to meet with Group 3 first, but after that, you don't have a group to meet with. But the rest of your students have a center rotation, so your whole class has something to do, but you do not have a group to meet with. I think this is the dream. Now, you're not going to use this time to eat a snack and check your email. Instead, you can pull your lowest learners. It doesn't even have to be a group. You can just say, I need Johnny and Katie and Susie to come to the back table. And they'll miss whatever they're scheduled to do, but you are more important than anything they're scheduled to do, right? And if you notice during the week, during Meet the Teacher or during whole group, that these particular kiddos were really, really struggling, pull them back and give them a second opportunity to Meet the Teacher, right? You can pull a kiddo who's been absent a lot and needs a little extra help. You can pull a couple of kiddos that are really high and give them an even more extension. You can also just walk around and sit in on the independent center. Sit in and offer assistance and give ideas, okay? It gives you some flexibility to meet with not a whole group. If you need to, you can say, you know what, I need Group 2 to come to me for Meet the Teacher again. And you can do that. Or you can just pick and choose certain students who maybe need a retest or a reteach and provide that intervention or extension. Okay. So if I had a small class, I would totally go with this schedule because I think it gives you even more opportunities to meet your students' needs. All right, guys, this gives you just a little bit of an idea about the activities I use, how I do whole group quickly, why I only use 2 rotations a day, and a couple of different schedules that you might use. All of this information is in my Math Center blog post series that I'm going to link in the description. I'm also going to link my Independent Math Center units for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and I'll post a link to my math menus and my interactive math notebooks. I'm going to put all of those things in the description so that you have even more resources at your fingertips. Thanks, guys.